Part 1, the invitation expanded. Emma hadn't planned on saying yes that evening. But something in Luke's voice made it impossible to refuse. He wasn't like the other men she'd met in Seattle. He had a calm, steady energy that felt rare. When he texted, "Come over, I'll make coffee. We can watch something simple," she hesitated for only a moment before replying yes. The day had been long, her thoughts scattered, and the idea of a quiet night with someone she genuinely liked felt right. When she arrived, the city had just started to glow under the streetlights. Luke's apartment was on the top floor of an old building with brick walls and a narrow staircase that creaked under her steps. She knocked lightly, and he opened the door almost instantly, as if he had been waiting close by. His smile was soft but welcoming. "Hey, you found it," he said, stepping aside. She smiled back, brushing off her jacket and glancing around. The place was warm and lived in. A mix of books, soft lights, and quiet music in the background. A faint vanilla candle burned near the window. It wasn't the kind of place meant to impress, it was the kind of place that felt real. "Nice apartment," Emma said, setting her bag down. "It's cozy." "Cozy is a polite word for small," he said with a laugh. "But it does the job." He handed her a mug of coffee, the steam curling up between them. She noticed how careful he was, the way he spoke, the way he listened. He wasn't trying too hard, and that made her relax. They sat on the couch, and within minutes, conversation flowed easily. They talked about work, their favorite music, and the strange comfort of living alone. She told him about her love for late-night walks. He shared how he sometimes played guitar to clear his head. Emma felt herself leaning in, drawn by the calm rhythm of his voice. Every time she looked up, he was already watching her. Not in a way that made her uneasy, but in a way that felt genuine. There was a quiet interest there, something unspoken but clear-cut. As the movie played in the background, neither of them paid much attention to it. The laughter came easily. The silences felt soft instead of awkward. When her hand brushed his while reaching for her cup, neither of them moved away. It was small, but it lingered. She caught herself wondering if this was what it felt like when something new begins, that mix of comfort and nerves. It's like standing at the edge of something you're not sure you're ready for but can't walk away from. Luke leaned back, his voice quieter now. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said. "Me too," she replied, her voice almost a whisper. "I didn't realize how much I needed a quiet night." The air between them shifted, a silent awareness building. It wasn't rushed or loud, just a people finding a strange peace in each other's presence. Then, just as the moment settled, there was a sudden knock at the door. It was sharp, unexpected, breaking the calm like a sudden gust of wind. Luke blinked, surprised. "That's weird," he murmured, glancing at the clock. It was nearly 9. "Are you expecting someone?" Emma asked, trying to sound casual, though her heart quickened. He shook his head. "No, not tonight." He stood, running a hand through his hair before walking toward the door. The knock came again, louder this time. When he opened it, laughter spilled into the room before the cold air could. 3 people stood outside, holding takeout bags and a speaker. "Luke," one of them called, grinning. "You didn't answer your phone, man. We thought we'd just drop by." Luke's smile faltered for a second before he found his usual calm. "Jason, Mia, Connor. Wow, okay. Yeah, come in, I guess." Emma tried to hide her surprise, straightening a little on the couch as the group entered. The room instantly felt smaller, louder. Jason dropped the bags on the counter. Mia waved warmly. Connor nodded in greeting, already looking around with casual curiosity. Luke glanced at Emma, his eyes apologetic. "Ah, this is Emma," he said, trying to balance the situation. "She's a friend." "Nice to meet you," Emma said, offering a polite smile. Mia's eyes sparkled with interest. "Oh, Emma," she said teasingly, "we've heard about you." Luke shot her a look, half warning, half embarrassed. Emma laughed softly, trying to make it easier for him. "All good," she said. But inside she felt a twinge of something she couldn't quite name. Disappointment, maybe? The quiet, the closeness, the unspoken connection between them had vanished the moment the door opened. Within minutes, the living room was filled with chatter. The music got louder, and takeout boxes covered the small table. Luke did his best to stay near Emma, checking if she was comfortable, offering her food, but she could sense his distraction. His friends were kind, funny, and clearly close to him, but the easy intimacy from before was gone. Still, she stayed. Maybe because leaving would have felt abrupt? Or maybe because she wanted to understand the kind of person Luke was with the people who knew him best. She listened to their stories, old college memories, inside jokes, late-night adventures. Every so often, Luke's gaze would find hers, and the air between them would soften for a moment before another joke pulled him back into the group. As she sipped her coffee, Emma watched him. Seemed different with his friends, lighter, more playful. But she also caught hints of hesitation in his expression, small glances that said, this wasn't supposed to happen tonight. Eventually, Jason started a game on the speaker, Mia danced around the room, and Connor began teasing Luke about something from years ago. Emma smiled, even laughed. But inside she wondered what the night could have been if the door had stayed closed. Luke caught her eye again, this time holding her gaze longer. He gave a small, silent apology, the kind you don't say out loud but hope the other person understands. She nodded once, a quiet sign that she did. The night had changed. But something about that small look made her stay just a little longer. Maybe the evening wasn't what either of them planned, but sometimes the interruptions are what reveal who people really are. Outside, the rain began to fall softly against the windows. The lights glowed warmer inside. Emma sat quietly for a moment, listening to the sound of laughter. Her thoughts spinning between what was and what almost was. And somewhere inside that noise, she realized something. It wasn't about how the night went wrong, but how much she wanted to see him again. Just the two of them, without the noise, without the knock at the door. That thought stayed with her, quiet but certain. As she looked across the room at Luke and saw him still looking back. Part 1 ends minus 1,000 words. Emotionally rich, clean, and suitable for YouTube monetization. Part 2, the unplanned evening, expanded the living room that once felt calm and warm, now buzzed with energy. The laughter from Luke's friends filled every corner, bouncing off the walls and softening the quiet space that Emma had started to feel comfortable in. She sat with a small smile, trying to blend in, but inside she missed the stillness they had shared just minutes earlier. Luke moved around, offering everyone drinks, clearing space on the table, doing everything a good host should. But his eyes kept returning to her, each glance a silent apology. Mia, bubbly and bright, was the first to sit beside Emma. So, how long have you known Luke? She asked with curiosity that wasn't unkind, but a little too direct. Emma smiled politely. Not long. We met through a friend a few weeks ago. Mia grinned. That makes sense? He's been acting different lately. I figured someone was responsible. She said it teasingly, but her words made Emma's heart skip. She looked away, pretending to study the takeout boxes that Jason was unpacking. The scent of fried rice and garlic filled the room, mixing with the faint smell of candle wax. Connor turned on the speaker again, playing an upbeat song that clashed with the quiet mood Emma still carried. She didn't mind noise usually, but tonight she wanted something else, something simple. Like the soft conversation she and Luke had started, Luke finally sat beside her, handing her a plate. Sorry about this, he said quietly, his tone sincere. They just drop by sometimes. I didn't expect them tonight. It's fine, she said with a small smile. They seem fun. He chuckled lightly. They are. Just a bit much. Jason raised a glass of soda, calling across the room. Luke, tell her about that night in Portland. Luke groaned. No, not that one. But Jason had already begun telling a story about a road trip gone wrong. A flat tire, a lost wallet, and a run-in with a street musician who turned out to be a local celebrity. The story was chaotic and funny, and everyone laughed at the right parts. Even Emma found herself smiling. Yet through all the noise, she noticed small details: the way Luke kept checking on her, the subtle tension in his shoulders, the softness that never left his voice when he spoke to her. There was warmth beneath his composure, and it showed even when the room was filled with distractions. After a while, Mia suggested a game: truths or secrets, a playful twist on truth or dare without the dares. Everyone agreed. Jason and Connor sat cross-legged on the rug. Mia leaned back on the couch, and Emma hesitated before joining them. Luke sat beside her, close enough that their knees brushed. "Okay, I'll start," Mia said, smiling mischievously. "Luke, what's one thing you've done recently that surprised even you?" Luke smiled, thinking. "Probably inviting someone over on a Friday night," he said. His eyes flicked toward Emma for a split second before returning to the group. Mia gasped dramatically. "Oh, that's cute. I'll allow it." Connor laughed. "Man, you're getting soft." Emma blushed but said nothing. The teasing felt light-hearted. But the meaning behind Luke's words stayed with her. When it was her turn, Mia asked Emma, "What's something you're afraid to admit?" She hesitated, glancing down. "That I sometimes overthink everything," she said honestly. "Even when something feels right, I look for reasons to doubt it." Luke's expression softened. "That doesn't sound like a bad thing," he said quietly, just for her to hear. The game went on. More laughter followed, and soon plates were empty, drinks half finished, and the group's energy began to fade. Jason stretched and announced he had an early shift. Mia checked her phone and sighed. "We should head out soon," she said, that as they gathered their things. Mia leaned closer to Emma. "He really likes you, you know," she whispered with a small smile. "He doesn't invite people into his world like this." Emma blinked, unsure how to respond. "We're just getting to know each other," she said softly. "Sure," Mia replied, grinning. "But trust me, I've known Luke since college. If he's looking at you like that, it's not casual." Before Emma could respond, Mia was already helping Jason pack the leftovers. Luke walked his friends to the door, exchanging hugs and promises to meet soon. When the door finally closed behind them, the apartment fell into silence again. The change was instant. The noise disappeared. The laughter faded, and the soft hum of the refrigerator became the only sound. Emma sat quietly on the couch, her hands wrapped around her mug, still warm. The room looked the same, but the atmosphere had shifted again back to something calm, almost fragile. Luke returned and sat beside her. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them carried everything unsaid: the interruption, the teasing, the unspoken affection that had hung there all evening. "I'm sorry again," he said finally. "They didn't mean to crash our night. They just show up." "It's okay," she said honestly. "They're good people." "It was nice seeing that side of you." He turned toward her. "That side." She smiled faintly. "The part of you that laughs too hard, tells stories, gets teased by your friends." "It's nice," he exhaled, relieved. "I was worried you'd think I didn't want this to be about us." Her eyes lifted to meet his. "It still was," she said quietly. "Even with them here." For a few seconds, the world felt still again, the same gentle stillness that had started the night. The connection between them hadn't disappeared. It had simply waited beneath the noise, patient and steady. Outside, the rain had stopped. The lights from the neighboring buildings glowed through the windows, painting soft reflections across the floor. Emma could feel the warmth of the room again, not from the candle, not from the coffee, but from the way Luke looked at her, as if everything that had gone wrong tonight somehow still led to the right place. Mia's words echoed in her mind. "He really likes you." And as Luke smiled, that quiet, nervous smile he'd given her when she first arrived, Emma believed it. He stood, offering her another cup of coffee. "One more before you go." She nodded, her voice soft. "Sure." As he moved around the kitchen, she watched him, the small movements, the care he put into simple things. There was something comforting in how unpolished he was, how real the evening had turned out to be. Maybe it wasn't the quiet, perfect night she had imagined, but in its own way, It showed her more about him than silence ever could. When he returned with her cup, he sat close again. "Next time," he said with a half smile, "I'll make sure it's just us." "Next time?" she repeated, her tone gentle but certain. The clock ticked softly in the background, and the night settled around them again. No noise, no crowd, just two people sitting side by side, both realizing that sometimes the unexpected moments are the ones that truly matter. And for the first time all evening, Emma didn't want to leave. Part 2 ends minus 1,000 words. Emotional, romantic, mature, and fully YouTube safe for storytelling monetization. Part 3, after they left, expanded. The door clicked shut behind Luke's friends. And for a few seconds, the silence felt almost too heavy to touch. The apartment, once filled with voices and laughter, now seemed to breathe again. The candlelight flickered against the wall, casting soft gold shadows across the room. Emma sat quietly, her hands resting on her knees, her thoughts somewhere between relief and hesitation. Luke stood by the door, his head lowered slightly as if trying to gather his thoughts before speaking. He turned to her with a faint, apologetic smile. "That wasn't how tonight was supposed to go," he said, his tone half defeated but still gentle. Emma smiled softly, trying to ease his worry. "You don't have to apologize. It happens. Your friends seem great." "Yeah, they are," he said, walking back toward her. "Just terrible at reading hints." She laughed quietly, and the sound filled the space with warmth again. The tension slowly began to fade. Luke sat beside her, the same spot where they had started the night, and for a moment neither spoke. There was something about the silence that felt honest, not awkward, but full of things neither knew how to say. He glanced at her, his voice quieter now. "I wanted to spend more time with you tonight. Just you. I thought maybe," he paused, searching for words, "maybe we'd get a chance to actually talk, properly." Emma looked at him, her heart softening. "We still can," she said. "The night's not over." That simple sentence seemed to shift the air again. Luke leaned back, exhaling slowly, as if the weight of the evening had finally lifted. "You're kind," he said, with a small grin. "Most people would have run out the minute the noise started." "I thought about it," she teased, "but then I saw you trying so hard to make it work." "I couldn't just leave," Luke chuckled, shaking his head. "You really stayed through the chaos for me." "Maybe," she said, her smile soft but teasing. "Maybe I wanted to see what kind of person you are when things don't go as planned." He looked at her for a long moment. "And what did you find out?" "That you care," she said simply, "even when things get messy." The way she said it caught him off guard. He didn't reply right away, just watched her, the calm confidence in her tone, the light in her eyes. She wasn't trying to flatter him, she was just being honest. The rain outside had stopped, leaving behind a quiet hum of the city. From the window, the lights of other buildings shimmered faintly, making the whole night feel softer, slower. Emma leaned back into the couch, her shoulders relaxing. She hadn't expected to feel this at ease. Luke spoke again after a pause. I used to think connection was supposed to be instant, like something dramatic or loud. But tonight," he smiled faintly. "Tonight made me realize it can also be quiet." Emma nodded. "Sometimes quiet is better. You notice more?" He tilted his head, like, "What?" "Like the way you always make sure everyone's comfortable," she said, her voice low but sincere. "Or how you kept looking at me, even when your friends were talking." Luke laughed softly, a little embarrassed. "You noticed that?" "I notice everything," she said, smiling. "It's a habit." Something about the moment felt fragile but beautiful, like the beginning of something neither wanted to rush. Luke stood up, stretching slightly, and then looked toward the kitchen. "Do you want another cup of coffee before you head out?" "I promise it's fresh this time." Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, why not?" He disappeared into the kitchen, and she listened to the familiar sounds, the kettle, the quiet hum of the machine, the faint clink of cups. There was something comforting about it. as if the noise was part of a small rhythm they were both learning. She looked around the apartment again, the books, the soft light, the warmth that still lingered. It felt like a place she could come back to. When Luke returned, he handed her the cup carefully. Their fingers brushed again, a tiny spark of warmth in the quiet. "Careful," he said, still hot. "Thanks," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They sat side by side again, sipping their coffee slowly, both aware that the night was coming to an end. Still, neither moved to finish it too quickly. After a while, Emma set her cup down and sighed softly. "I should probably go," she said, though she didn't sound ready to leave. Luke nodded, his voice low. "Can I walk you out?" "Of course," she said. He grabbed her coat and held it open for her. The small gesture made her heart twist in a quiet, unexpected way. As they stepped into the hallway, the air outside felt cooler, cleaner. The city lights painted soft reflections on the floor as they walked together toward the elevator. Neither spoke much on the way down, but the silence wasn't empty. It was comfortable now, full of what they didn't need to say. When they reached her car, Emma turned to face him. "I had a good time tonight," she said. "Even with the surprise guests." He smiled, his eyes warm. "I'm glad you stayed. I don't think I've laughed that much in a while or felt this comfortable." She looked up at him. "Comfortable is a good start." "Yeah," he said, "but I hope it's not where we stop." Emma smiled softly, a little surprised at his honesty. "I don't think it will be." The street was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. The world around them seemed to fade for a moment. Luke took a small step closer, not too near, just enough that she could feel his warmth. "Can I see you again?" he asked. Her answer came without hesitation. "Yes." He nodded, relief flickering across his face. "Next time, I'll make sure it's just us. No interruptions." "I'll hold you to that," she said. He laughed gently, and for a brief moment, neither wanted to move. The air between them was full, not with words or promises, but with quiet understanding. Finally, she reached for her car door. "Good night, Luke." "Good night, Emma." She started the engine, and as she drove off, Luke stood on the sidewalk, watching until her taillights faded into the distance. The night felt colder without her there, but in a good way, like something had been left behind. A trace of warmth that made him feel alive inside her car. Emma couldn't stop smiling. The evening had turned out nothing like she imagined, yet somehow it felt exactly right. She thought about his laughter, the way he looked at her even when surrounded by others, the way his voice softened when he said her name. There was something real there, something she hadn't felt in a long time as she merged onto the quiet road. She whispered to herself, "Next time?" The words carried a promise, not rushed, not uncertain, but hopeful. Back at his apartment, Luke cleaned up the leftover cups, still thinking about her. Every sound, the tap of the mug, the closing of the cabinet reminded him of their laughter, their brief silences, and the look she gave him when she said goodbye. He smiled to himself, realizing he was already looking forward to seeing her again, for both of them. That night became something unexpected, not perfect, but honest. A start that didn't need fireworks or grand gestures, just to people. Meeting in the middle of life's small surprises, finding a quiet connection that felt strong enough to build on. And though neither of them said it out loud, they both knew the story wasn't over yet. Part 3 ends around 1,000 words, fast-paced, romantic, emotionally mature, and fully compliant with YouTube monetization policies.